Hi there, Steve Arterburn here. I'm really glad you joined me here on Going Deeper. And it is so easy to stay on the surface. And I've been challenged myself to go a little bit deeper, look at some blind spots, look at maybe some areas that I think I've dealt with, and maybe I haven't. Sometimes, if you're in a situation where the other person has so many problems, you could say, I'm the good guy, that's the bad guy, and not deal with it. And that's just not going to help anybody. And so what we have to always do is work my side of the street. And I'll tell you, I just believe that if we could keep this one thought in our minds when it comes to other people and how we're dealing with other people, it is this: get rid of the story we have in our head about another person and relate to the person. Give them the benefit of the doubt, and you might find that in the intimate relationship where you're not, like you're married to somebody or you're dating somebody, you're not always running this story in your head about something they did in the past. Man, that can change everything. And then out there in the real world, racism or bias or mistreating of others, many times that comes from some story we have in our head that has nothing to do with that person. So we want to look at those things. That to me is really going deeper. And how rich it is when a person's able to say, you know what, every time I'm with this person or around that person, really, I start running this old story in my head. And it's so much more about the story that happened then or never happened at all than it is the person today. So my challenge is, you got any stories in your head about people? Maybe it would help, and maybe it would allow you to go deeper with them if you could give up that story. Just a little help here on a Thursday. Now I want to get right into our next to the last session on Lose It for Life. So here we go. So this is session 14 on Lose It for Life. I'll finish it all up tomorrow, kind of where we started back at Saddleback, where, if you remember, I talked about filling in for Rick Warren to talk about gluttony, and a lot of the principles that I knew about eating were presented there. I'm going to finish by talking about a sermon I gave there many years later. But right now, I want to do a few things. I want to try to bring this all together. I want to remind you of some things first. Relapse occurs when we begin one of 4 stages of relapse. We get complacent. We stop doing the things that we know are helpful and healthy. And so if I stop doing that and I notice, hey, I stopped that, I can start that. I can literally say to myself, okay, I gotta quit doing this. That wasn't healthy. Get back on the right track. So I get complacent. When I get complacent, I get confused about what's good for me, what isn't, what the problem is, who's to blame, all that kind of stuff. And then I start to compromise over and over again. And then I find myself, one day I go over to my scale and I'm 5 pounds heavier or 10 pounds heavier. And I would just have to say I'm in full catastrophic relapse. So we want to intervene with ourselves at that complacency point. The other thing is that if I'm going to protect myself from relapse, I must move. Whatever I've got that can move every day, I need some movement. It's healthy. It stimulates things. If I go for a walk, my wife and I went for a 1-hour walk last night, and walking can take away so much of the cortisol that can mess us up in our system. And so walking, if nothing else, if you can't walk, you're in a wheelchair, you're rolling, any kind of movement that you possibly can do is the thing we need to do. It is the best form of natural relaxation and even stimulation when you need it. You just start moving, jumping around, hopping around. That can help. So exercise. Nutrition, really important that we start to value food for food's sake, what's good for me, not just what's pleasing and comforting. And really, I think probably the headline of all food issues is just that sugar is your enemy. It's not your friend. Tastes great. And, it's not just a matter of ice cream is full of sugar or whatever, but, white flour, white rice, white potatoes, all these things, these big starchy things, they are converted into sugar in our system. And so a big part of nutrition too is taking the most unhealthy things and trying to replace them with more healthy things. So if I just have to have a little ice cream every now and then, I don't want to deprive myself forever. That's a disaster. So I find the no sugar added ice cream, and hopefully less calorie, less sugar spike, all those things. So it's not the best, but it could be better. So I'm looking at all areas of nutrition, replacing some of the crummy stuff. Need some protein, need some complex carbohydrates, need those good oils in my life. All right, and then rest and relaxation. I've got to find a way to rest and relax and do what I enjoy. I enjoy art, and I'm always resting and relaxing into the art project. It's really fun and enjoyable. I'm not great at it, but I'm great at using that as relaxing and a source of enjoyment. I got to look at my lifestyle, and if I've got a bunch of negative influences, places, people, I need to look at that. And if I'm always with this person and they're always irritating and angry or pressure, I need to look at that. And then I need to be in some kind of growth program. A 12-step growth program is a wonderful way to go. If you don't want 12 steps, find a program where maybe there's 7 or 8 steps or something. But we need a growth program. The thing about if we don't have a growth program, then we're kind of in a setback stage so often, and we don't want to be there. So please do something to grow. I love 12 steps, and I love anything to do with restoration and recovery. Life Recovery Bible can help you. Restoration Bible can help you. A Spiritual Renewal Bible can help you. Okay, so when we put all of this together, you can kind of come down to some big concepts that I've talked about, and some maybe not so much, but they're really helpful concepts. And the first one, you remember this thing about acceptance, and acceptance being the answer to all my problems today. And I mean, it just sounds like, yeah, how can any one thing be the answer to everything? But really, when you think about it, acceptance, it frees me up. Accept my reality, accept you, accept my responsibility, accept my past. All of this kind of stuff is so beneficial to look at what am I accepting in the full reality of my situation, and what am I kind of resisting to accept this as something I need to deal with or something that is part of my life. Acceptance. And then once I accept all this, hey, I can start to open up about the areas that aren't exactly right. And we know that in my secrecy and silence, get a little bit sicker. In my openness, there can be healing and restoration and even a return to a joyful life. So I accept, I open up, and then, here's the big one. I accept responsibility. I take responsibility. I don't blame people, but I know that if I'm going to grow spiritually, then I'm going to be the one that's going to have to do that. I can't wait for some miraculous miracle to make it easy or whatever. Got to do my part. And if I'm looking for better, that's the goal, I can get there. If I'm looking for everything's going to be easy and peachy and all that, probably not going to get there. So always going for a little bit better. Taking responsibility to do what I need to do, carrying my own load, not looking for somebody else to fix me, not letting what's happened to me and me blaming somebody else from preventing me from getting better. And then forgiveness. This thing of freeing myself from bitterness, resentment, and anger is such a gift to yourself. And I would just say this, of all of the things that you could do to remove kind of the drive to overeat or to, comfort yourself, medicate yourself, if you could grieve your losses and forgive the people involved in those losses, boy, what a great gift to yourself. And what a huge, giant step in dealing with this it thing that causes us to overeat. And then transformation. What I love to see is a person goes through that first area, those first areas we've talked about. You accept the reality, you take responsibility, you open up, you do the task of forgiving. Boy, it really frees up your life from so many distractions. Now, I can ask myself, what could I do that could transform this whole thing I've been through into something good that would benefit the kingdom of God and other people? So for some people, it's to start a group. Could be a recovery group in general. All people are welcome. Could be a group like a life recovery group that kind of revolves around eating. And we've got a workbook that goes with the Life Recovery Bible where you could do that. It could be the fact that I discover in my journey that, boy, all of this eating I've done has been because of a sexual abuse thing, let's say. And so I've gained all this size to prevent ever being abused. It's like a protection. Okay, well, maybe your mission now, you don't want it to have anything to do with food, but it's to try to help other people who have been abused or to prevent abuse from happening, early intervention, things like that. But I really do encourage you, search for a purpose to come out of this. That's really what transformation is all about. And when I started New Life 31 years ago, I was never, ever in doubt about what we were going to do. We were going to transform lives. We were not going to be some group of counseling centers that just wanted people to feel better. We started out doing treatment in psychiatric hospitals from Washington, D.C. to California. And man, the stories just started to mount up. And that can be part of your life too. Transformation. Taking the worst thing in your life and creating something of value to help other people. And then I'll just finish up with this, and that's preservation. Preserving the spiritual gains that you've made. Doing whatever you have to do to put a system together that keeps you moving forward and making progress, and preserving those gains also, like the relapse prevention stuff. It also means finding or having kind of a reboot key. What I'm going to do if I get in trouble. Who am I going to talk to? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to open up with? But do whatever it takes to preserve these spiritual gains, because it is a battle out there. And just, when you think, well, maybe I've got this under control or whatever, here comes a new challenge. So I need to be connected in redemptive relationship. Connected in redemptive relationship. Now, sometimes we get married and we think we are marrying and our relationship should correct all things wrong with them and me, both. But it's not. But what you want to do is you want to evolve that or kind of work that to where it's redemptive for both. It's good for both. You're not sitting there complaining, griping about this other person and all their problems. You're working on you. And you're trying to facilitate them feeling comfortable enough that they would work on themselves. So if we can get in this preservation mode where we're really trying to nurture the people around us, nurture ourselves, not trying to control anything, not trying to make a point or resolve or whatever stuff from the past because we've done the work, boy, that can lead us to a place of freedom that we've never experienced before. So that right there is number 14. And when I see you next time talking about Lose It for Life, it's going to be about this big word, surrender. So whether you have a weight problem, not a weight problem, Whether you're dealing with other issues, I want to invite you to come join me Saturday. It's our Finding Freedom Intensive. We've got therapists that are going to work with you in little small Zoom meetings. Chris Williams and I are going to present, and we're going to help you get free of certain things that you've been struggling with. It's a 12-hour workshop that includes 4 follow-up sustained victory phone calls, and I think the price is like $400. It's a lot for a very little amount of money, and people's lives have been transformed. I don't know if you heard on Tuesday on New Life Live, we had a woman who called in. She calls every year. 10 years of sobriety. She went to a New Life event and was so obsessed with anxiety and stuff, she had to have a couple of drinks just to come. Before that weekend was over, she began a life of sobriety, and today was her 10th year anniversary. That could be you in 10 years. It could be 1 year in a year. So come join us. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com and find out about Finding Freedom. I don't know what it is you're struggling with. For me, weight's been a big one. But what I want for you is I want freedom for you, and I hope you can get that through some of the stuff we've done here. Hope to see you here tomorrow, and I hope you'll join me at Finding Freedom on Saturday. Take care.